I'm sweating through my white T-shirt or my little tank top underneath this red, black flannel. I'm like so discombobulated right now. Joe Lacob on the Warriors as we get right back into the Warriors.
Dude, Joe Lacob said some things yesterday, or I guess the other day, that are like, wow.
All right, let's start off with how does he feel about this team coming into the season?
I think that what we wound up doing, I'm so proud of our group for what they accomplished this summer. People don't understand how much better I think our team is, even right now, versus last year. We had 46 wins last year. We should have been, in my belief, a 50-win team last year. You know, the Draymond suspension clearly hurt us and some other things. Look, there's always some things that happen and some that don't and so on. I think we could have been better. I think we're definitely a better team than we were last year on paper. The way I like to look at what Mike has done and Kirk and those guys is that we now have core older guys, you know, who are still good. Steph, Draymond, Wiggins, he's got to get a little better this year. Obviously, he's got a little better year than he did before. But they're sitting there, those three guys. You've got the four young guys who are just getting better. Young guys don't usually get worse, and these guys aren't. And then you've got three other veterans. There's a couple other veterans on the team as well that will add, but three other veterans that really can play, that are clear rotation players that we just added in the three guys you mentioned. That is a deep team. That is definitely deeper than we were last year.
And I thought last year they were deep.
Yeah, but I think this year it feels like the parts fit a little better.
Yeah. But then we go into last season thinking that boy CP3 and the optionality and Kuminga and Moody. We felt kind of the same.
We might have felt it, but I don't think it played out that way.
It didn't play out that way at all. And we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, the jury's still out on whether or not but the Warriors feel good about their roster right now.
I agree with them, though.
You know? So the question around the number 2 scorer, that's a big question everybody has. Who's going to be the opposite scorer or the number 2 scorer opposite of Steph Curry? Here's what Joe Lacob about to say on the Athletic NBA show with David Aldridge and Marcus Thompson.
Now, the questions revolve around, do we have a reliable number 2 scorer? I mean, I think that's a legitimate question for people to ask. We think we've got some candidates. Wiggins can have a better year. In 22, he was pretty damn good. Jonathan Kuminga got much better last year, and I expect him to get a lot better this year. So, look, we'll have to wait and see how all that works out. But we added shooting in Buddy Hield, and we added a lot of perimeter defense into Anthony Melton, which I think we needed. And we added a guy who's another big, who's a very versatile player, who also another really good defensive player in Anderson. So I look at it, at least at this point in time on paper, along with changes in our coaching staff, which have yet to be formalized, but I think has all been talked about, which is tremendous upgrade in the coaching staff. We made some big moves. So coaching staffs, players, you know, I'm pretty excited about where we are right now. Am I satisfied? No, never. So we're always going to be in the market to improve our team. Always. I don't care what team we have. If we could get someone else and work out a deal that would make us better, great. We will. We're always looking. Yeah. We're going to be the most aggressive team in the league.
Now, a couple things there, Shasky, with Lacob. And look, when I see people on social media say Lacob's not trying to win, that's the complete fib. And I'm not even doing that because we're partners with the Golden State Warriors here 95.7 The Game, and we are at NBC Sports. I know an owner when he's trying to be aggressive. I know an owner who wants to win. We've been around bad owners in this market. We've seen bad owners around the nation. Joe Lacob wants to win. That's number one. And it feels like knowing what he told us last season, saying, yeah, I have a Twitter account. I see what's going on there. He's kind of talking to the fan base who thinks that he's not trying to win, that he's trying to nail it in and say, it's not about Steph. We're just trying to turn a profit here. That doesn't sound like an owner who's just trying to turn a profit. It sounds like an owner who's convincing himself that, hey, we have a good roster, but also I do want to win, and I'm never satisfied.
Well, what if I told everybody listening right now, I didn't think they had a clear-cut number 2 scorer last year.
No.
It changed all the time.
Did they have
it
one
ended up being Klay Thompson when the dust settled by the raw numbers. But on a night-to-night basis, did you really feel, like I'm asking as you're going into games and watching games, right, did it feel like he was your number 2 scorer?
No, I'll take it a step further, Shasky, because to answer your question, no. But also during the championship season in 2022, did they have a clear-cut number 2 scorer then? It changed on a night-to-night basis.
It did.
Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Otto Porter Jr. one night. I mean, GP2 had some nights. We never knew. We didn't know who the second leading scorer was. It was just, can you compliment Stephen Curry?
I just think that because when you look at a team that doesn't have the clear-cut number 2, everyone's like, oh, well, just dismiss them because it's Kyrie and Luka, it's Jamal Murray and Jokic, and Anthony Edwards and Cat, and all these different combinations of teams. I keep going back to, what if I told you their top 8 players are just better this year?
Yeah.
as opposed to having a great number 2. So like, let's say I don't have a legit number 2, but what if my 3, 4, and 5 are better than your 3, 4, and 5, and we average out 2, 3, 4, 5, and I just think I'm better in the totality of that aggregate?
That's a good point. That could be possible because even last year, offensively, they were 8th in scoring in the NBA, scoring damn near 118 points a game.
Yeah, I don't think scoring was a
scoring was an
problem.
issue. It was point of attack defense, blow-bys, dribble drive, penetration, all that stuff.
Late game execution, we can nitpick
turnovers,
as well.
we could do all that stuff. It was clunky, blowing leads, obviously, not having the right combinations out there, and blowing leads. But they also, despite being the smallest team in the league and one of the least athletic teams in the league, somehow, some way, they're the number 1 team at rebounding, which is crazy. Now, rebounds are different because of all the three-point shots and long rebounds and hustle plays, but the Warriors somehow, some way, were number 1 in rebounds. However, the turnovers, 23rd in the league at turnovers, 23rd in steals, and then how many points off turnovers did they give up? There were losing categories there. Those are winning categories for teams. The Warriors were losing in those winning categories.
See, to me, last year felt a lot about situational, horrific possessions that led to either poor shots,
I agree,
poor turnovers, and then defensively, you're talking about overall rebounding numbers, which they are what they are.
They are what they are.
I would say situational defensive lapses, breakdowns, and then situational rebounding did them in.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree.
We always say situation. No, last year it was all about situations.
Double-digit blown leads. They were second in the league in doing that. So can they hold a lead?
Can
with
they
this
turn
team
off
moving
the
forward?
faucet?
Right. That's another thing.
Get a couple stops in a row.
And that's why I would rather keep Wiggins and Kuminga instead of having Lauri Markkanen.
Okay.
And yes, it's Lauri Markkanen. Sarah Todd told us here, for everybody confused on how to pronounce Lauri Markkanen, because people are telling us, it's Lauri Markkanen. Well, Sarah Todd for the Desert News, who covers Utah Jazz inside and out, has been doing it for a number of years. Here's the correct way to say Lauri Markkanen. He's a good offensive player, but how good is Lauri Markkanen? And is he worth it for the Warriors front? I guess they would determine whether or not he's worth it, but who is Lauri Markkanen? Tell us, enlighten us about Lauri.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's kind of a publicity tour as everyone's wanting to talk to me about Lauri this summer. Like, the important thing is that it's Lauri, like Mike Lowry, like Kyle Lowry. So if he ends up being a Warrior, that would be important information for everyone.
Especially for me, Lauri Markkanen.
Lauri. Yeah.
There we go. Like the seasoning salt.
I like that.
I do like that. So whenever somebody questions, she checked me. You got to stay out of that one. On the move so far, okay, look up more on the moves he made so far.
Before you go to the next cut, go ahead. What'd you make of him talking about the coaching? Was coaching a problem last year?
I think not having, Kitty Atkinson, that was your one former head coach in the NBA. And the Warriors are always used to having a former coach, whether it's Alvin Gentry, Mike Brown, and then you bring in Kenny Atkinson. But outside of Kenny Atkinson, Bruce Crew Frazier is a specialist, right? But they needed a former player on that bench. Who do they have on that bench for many years? Willie Green, one of the Collins twins, Luke Walton. They didn't have a former player.
I didn't even think of that
on that bench last season.
I didn't even think of that. No, that's okay. I'm glad you.
And now you bring in Jerry Stackhouse. And you bring in Terry Stotts, who has fresh ideas, who's been in this league for a long time, who's coached under Hall of Famers and had his own version of the motion offense up there in Portland. And then you bring in Jerry Stackhouse, a former player who players on teams, they respect former players. Guys who went through the grind of an NBA schedule, they could look up and say, okay, you know what we're going through on a daily basis. That's very important. I think Stackhouse will demand respect from these players, whether it's Draymond, Steph,
that's a good point.
Podziemski, Kuminga. He knows the game inside and out, and he's a former All-Star. People forget how good Jerry Stackhouse was in some bad situations, but a damn good two-guard in the NBA. So I think those moves, subtle moves right there, will help this team. Now you got fresh ideas. You slot guys in their right spot. Boom. So I think that's important. It's getting slept on here.
He brought it up, and I thought, was he selling me on something? But you breaking that down, it makes a lot more sense.
And then Terry Stotts, he also mentioned that.
I like Terry Stotts.
Yeah, and you know what?
I liked him in Portland.
You know, a lot of people who complain about the read and react system and, you run more high ball screens than Stephen Curry. Terry Stotts comes out and said that read and react is the best way to play basketball. But how can you function off of that? What's your counter moves off of that read and react?
Yeah, you got to have a jab, and then you got to have an overhand right cross.
Exactly. So, moving on to Lacob on the moves he made so far, because we got Rob Stats Guerrero coming up at 12:30 to get back into the Niners, and we could get right back into the Warriors. And we don't know what player we're going to get yet. It's either TJD or our boy Daquan Plowden. Daquan! Could be him, could be TJD. Who knows? But that's coming up at 1:30.